What's going on, people? It's your boy 𝗙𝗍 back again with another video. I just wanted to say this is my 69th video, so I would appreciate it if I could get a nice in the comments. Also, if this video gets 10 likes, I'm gonna do the next episode of case review entirely in an Australian accent. So smash that like button. Anyways, today I'm gonna be reviewing every knife in CSGO. Here's how it works. Okay, you already know how it works. Let's just get straight into it. Starting in alphabetical order, we have the Bayonet. Now, me personally, I believe that the most important thing about a knife is the pull-out animation. And the Bayonet, in my opinion, has one of the coolest pull-out animations in the game. The way it flips up and over, it's just so satisfying. The design is sleek and sexy as well. It's just beautiful. I'm gonna give the Bayonet a 10 out of 10. That's right, it's a full score for the first time ever. Next up, we have the Bowie Knife. It's not so much a knife as a sword, to be honest. Like, look at it, it's absolutely huge. The draw animation is pretty cool, and it's got one of the more unique inspect animations. Overall, a pretty decent but obscure knife, 7 out of 10. The butterfly knife is very popular and highly craved, and it's not hard to see why. It's just so flashy and flamboyant, you know, and those intricate animations just make it all the more prestigious. While kids play with fidget spinners, men play with butterfly knives. I can't believe I just made a reference to a fidget spinner in 2020. Anyways, I'm gonna give the butterfly knife a 10 out of 10. Okay, I should probably stop doing that every time, it's annoying. Moving on, we have the Classic Knife, one of my personal favorites from Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source. The squiggly pattern on the blade is iconic and distinctive, the draw animation is fantastic, and I have to praise Valve for adding the idle animation where the player holds the tip of the knife like that. It's just a cherry on top. The Classic Knife gets a 9 out of 10 from me. Can you guess what the next knife is? That's right, it's the CT knife, boys. You didn't think I'd forget about this, right? Now, of course, there's nothing special about it. It's just a plain, ordinary, default knife. 6 out of 10. As for the T-side knife, I gotta admit, I never really liked it that much. The shape of the blade is weird, it's dull and stale. I wouldn't cut a fucking bagel with it. 4 out of 10. Next up is the Falchion Knife. It has a decent design, but its fatal shortcoming lies in the insipid pull-out animation. Like, what is that? You gotta have a good pull-out game, man, or else you're not gonna have a high score. I guess the Falchion does make up for it with the inspect animation, which isn't half bad, and the secondary attack is pretty cool as well. But yet again, I cannot stress this enough. It's all about the pull-out. 6 out of 10. Now we have the Flip Knife. The pull-out is interesting to say the least. I like how it just flicks out like that. It's a lot more dynamic than the Falchion. Everything else, however, is pretty standard, pretty average. 7 out of 10. Gut knife, I don't like the shape all that much. It's kind of fat. The handle looks like a fucking sausage, and there's like a beer opener at the top. I can't. 5 out of 10. The pullout, I guess you could call it a redeeming quality. It is pretty cool, but there's another knife that has the exact same animation, and that is the Huntsman Knife. The blade, however, just looks 10 times better. So I gave the gut knife a 5 out of 10. 5 times 10 is 50. This is the 10th knife of the video. 50 minus 10 is 40. And finally, 40 divided by 5 is 8. Therefore, the Huntsman Knife gets an 8 out of 10. What the fuck am I even doing? Moving on, we have yet another very popular option for high-end knife purchasers, and that is the Karambit. Its curved blade resembles the claw of a predator, and the draw animation is kick-ass. Yeah, swing that baby. 9 out of 10. Next up, we got the M9 Bayonet, or as I like to call it, the older brother of the Bayonet. It's got a serrated edge, and it just feels a lot stronger and more aggressive than its younger sibling. The pullout is not as cool, but overall, still a very solid knife. I'm gonna give it an M9 out of 10. Now we have the Navaja Knife. Now, it's safe to say that this knife probably doesn't have the best reputation. It gets a lot of flack for the absurd blade to handle ratio. The draw animation is, yeah. Even people who are looking to buy a cheap knife tend to stray away from the Navaja. It's just unappealing. 5 out of 10. The Nomad Knife is probably the least standout knife from the Shattered Web case. Not to say it's bad or anything, just that I don't think I've ever seen anyone use this knife, and it seems to be very generic. The pullout is quite unique, and there is this rare animation that you can get. That's something going for it. But in the end, nothing too special. 6 out of 10. The Paracord Knife has, well, paracord on the handle, presumably for strangling enemies. Very nice blade, everything else is typical. 7 out of 10. The Shadow Daggers has a very sexually suggestive design, bearing an uncanny resemblance to and the thrusting motion. Okay, in terms of being a knife, it's alright. Not terrible. 6.9 out of 10. See what I did there? Next up is the Skeleton Knife, probably the most well-liked among its cohorts from the Shattered Web case. The amazing spinning animations are comparable to that of the Butterfly, made possible by the hole in the middle, which I frankly find quite off-putting. Nevertheless, very cool, very swag, 8 out of 10. The Stiletto Knife's wafer-thin blade makes it more fitting as a letter opener than an imposing edged weapon. With all due respect, in terms of pullout, it does manage what the Falchion and Navaja try to do with only one hand, so props for that. 7 out of 10. Next is the Survival Knife, my personal favorite from the Shattered Web case. It has an even better looking blade than the Paracord in my opinion. And the rare draw animation is absolutely badass, but it is indeed quite rare. It took me a couple of tries to pull it off. Solid 8 out of 10. The Talon Knife is a younger cousin of the Karambit, and much like the M9 Bayonet, this knife features a serrated edge which is relatively lax. It feels kind of flimsy because of the slight rattling sound it makes when you inspect it. It makes it seem kind of fragile. Other than that, it's all good. 8 out of 10. Last but not least is the Ursus Knife. It's a straight up razor blade. One of the best things about this knife is this draw animation that you can get occasionally, as well as the twirling inspector animation. I really wish that the toss pullout was the default, because unfortunately the one right now is just kind of boring, how it just whips out. Regardless, this is still one of my favorite knives. 8 out of 10. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the video, and if you're still watching this, I appreciate your patience. Admittedly, the scoring on this video was quite lenient, especially for the lower ranked knives, but you have to remember that these are knives, the most coveted aspect of this game's cosmetic items, greatly desired by any player, serving as a sign of status in the CSGO world. That's it for this video, be sure to like and subscribe, but this has been your boy 𝗙𝗫𝗁. That is it from me, and I'm out.